My mother is the most beautiful woman I know, and her mother is the ugliest. Sometimes I pretend I have plans so I can go home and eat an entire bag of white cheddar popcorn by myself and watch television that will rot my brains and read erotic literature online. Other times, I pretend I have no plans at all, and I drink too much and dance a lot and sing a little bit and smoke cigarettes till my fingertips turn brown. The last thing I said to my father was that I never wanted to talk to him again, and then he died. And now his ashes sit on the dresser in front of my bed in an urn that he bought in Morocco that he didn't know was an urn. And sometimes life is funny that way. The other night while I was drunk, I made a recording of myself singing love songs to my ex-boyfriend and promised that if we ever got back together, I would sing for him for real, even though I can't really sing. It's true that I care what happens to me and what happens to everyone else. But it's also true that I have no idea how to change much of anything, so I smile a lot and try to say nice things, even when I'm thinking that the woman in front of me in line at the gas station is asking for it with that teeny tiny skirt. I'm also thinking that I wish my ass looked like hers. I'm trying not to think like that so often. It's true that I'm terrified of taking birth control, but also that I'm terrified when I'm a few days late, so I guess I have to pick one or the other. Sometimes I think it's true that only the good die young, and that sometimes that's just a cop-out, and that people shouldn't have to live in tunnels under cities, that veterans shouldn't come home to more than a government check and a case of PTSD, that students with part-time jobs and full-time education shouldn't have to rely on food stamps to eat a decent meal. But it's also true that I don't know how to change those things, that I feel safest when I'm asleep, a ball of dreams and the hum of the air conditioner, and that each time I open the front door, I hope that I'll see something different. The family business. I don't think much of public planes. I really don't remember their insides, those huge jets geared for takeoff. Their cold, hard metal frames, all crowded with people, all covered in germs, baggage claims, terminals, and metal detectors remind me of a hospital. I remember an airport, salty air and palm trees, balmy weather and light rain, even on really sunny days. Huge sheets of cellophane to wrap the spare parts and give the leftovers to me to stomp on all afternoon and make pop sounds in the office or the hangar till closing time. Sandy-haired men smoking Marlboro Reds on their breaks and biscuits and gravy on Saturdays with Dad at the restaurant by the runway. Little four-seaters with funny names, Cessnas and Moonies, and here's what to do in case we go down, scraping the tops of the trees of the water with the belly of the plane. One year, Dad rigged up James Taylor's Carolina in My Mind to play during takeoff through the speakers on our way to the coast, and my mother cried. The rusty orange tweed stuck to my skin, and I never slept better than when stuck between clouds, the three of us all alone in the sky. That's what I remember about the family business. Jerry was a drinker. His name's not really Jerry, I wish I could remember it. Jerry sat next to me on a bar stool in a rundown old place on Commercial and told me that he was going to sing me a song about his friend that had been lost at sea the year he left the Navy. He was going to sing How I Wish You Were Here, and it'd be because he wished you were here with us tonight. He told me that he was old, he was ugly, and his mama always dressed him funny. He told me that he came to Rum Runners every day after the night shift, which meant he got there around 9 a.m. just after they opened, and he drank Bud Light till someone offered to drive him home. Just then, some woman was offering to drive him home. She was nice, and she had kids at home, and a husband who probably didn't like Jerry all that much, but I liked him, and he reminded me of my uncle, the way he could drink beer but still stand on his own and make it to the bathroom without falling over. He paid nice compliments to the waitresses. He told me his mother had warned him about girls like me and patted me on the head and gave me a cigarette. I held it between two fingers without lighting it, and he made me promise that we'd meet again. We shook on it, and I watched his faded jean jacket bob toward the door and wondered who he had to go home to. Exotic like leopards. Standing naked in the bathroom, she makes faces into a mirror and wonders if she is pouty, if she is coy, if she is a sullen vixen with a smoky voice and dark eyes. Her tattoos give her away, and she wishes that she didn't have them. If she were lost, she would be too easy to find, identifiable by a blue-tinted piece of skin left at the scene of the crime, more than teeth to match her body to her name. She wonders if the curves of her hips look the way curves ought to look, if smoking really will turn her skin to leather, or if because it hasn't happened yet, it doesn't really exist. She wonders if the right person touching her the right way will make all the difference, and she'll know for sure what she is and what she isn't. She wonders what size breasts men like the best and why it even matters to her, because she knows better than to wonder something like that. She thinks if people take enough pictures of her, she might stay that way forever, and remembers people saying her hair looks pretty when she wears it in curls, so she never wears it like that anymore. A small, spiteful victory. She wonders whether people think she is more Betty or more Marilyn, and lingers on the dead eyes of both in their photographs. Betty is on the beach in leopard. If how she made wearing leopard seem as exotic as being a leopard, and women then as exotic as leopards, and sex as exotic as leopards. She danced the go-go in the bathroom, watching herself jiggle a little in the mirror, and wondered if that was something she should spend time worrying about, even though she knew better. She put on a robe anyway to cover the thought, and walked through the apartment pretending to be much, much older, much wiser, exotic, like the leopard, somewhere between southern gentility and apathy. The reality is that knowing better and doing better are two very different beasts, like the difference between being comfortable and being bored. It's subtle, and you're not supposed to mention this in polite company. So she had learned to be funny and been taught that being funny may be a woman's saving grace. Could almost hear her mother's voice whisper to her, "Make the wolves laugh," and she grinned at her own reflection back in front of the mirror, planting a perfect kiss on the glass, and imagining that she held the power of the world between those lips, that through them would pass perfect questions, perfect profanity, perfectly familiar and a little bit exotic. This one is called Zombie Drugs, and it's about my friend Sean. I have a friend who shot plant food into his arm in the backyard of our house last year before all anyone knew about this stuff was that it made you eat people's faces. And that it would make your skin smell like lavender in the tub, but that might be something different. He moved to Utah the year before that, dropped out of the military with a case of the shakes, and took off to load Bob Dylan's sweaty old guitars onto his bus for him at a resort in the mountains, and drive around rich people when it was too snowy for them to walk. He used to tell me that he could remote view lost things, and he once found my notebook for me hidden in the bottom of my backpack in the back of a closet. I never knew if he hid it there himself or if he really was a damn wizard, but I swear I found my glasses the other day just by sitting really still and wondering where they might be. I should call him and tell him I found them. Last I heard, he was off the hard drugs and high on snow skiing, videotaping himself going backwards down a black diamond, trading joints and stories with celebrities in town for Sundance. We said if both of us were single by the time we were 30, we'd get married to one another, but 30 seemed a really long way off back then, and I'm not so sure it looks like we thought it did when we made that promise. Festival God. I'm pretty sure that God paid me a visit in the form of a photojournalist. It might have been one of his angels or something, but they were definitely working together. I was standing in Forest Park just way too high on something these girls all the way from Michigan had traded us for some Tootsie Roll Pops. It all kicked in too fast, and soon I was floating outside myself, sweating bullets, would kill for some water, sure it was the end, the music bumping softly inside my skull as if through thick walls, even though we were only 30 feet from the stage. My friend and I looked at one another, checking to see if we were the only ones floating or if everyone else could feel it too, and over walked this photographer. His eyes looked directly into mine and said, "Let me get a photo for the website," coaxing me gently back to earth. More beautiful words have never been spoken, and soon we were settling back into our skin, searching for dirt and digging in with our toes, smiling shyly at God or an angel. His camera seemed to light our way and go brighter and brighter till he snapped the picture, sucking the high, floating feeling from our limbs, and leaving us there in the dirt, awake and hydrated, giggling like babies, thankful, touched, looking up to see that he had gone. And that's how miracles work. I don't have a title yet. We are wasted on cheap vodka or whatever else is in the fridge as whoever threw the party. Hazy-eyed prophets afraid to speak their minds, so speaking only when spoken to or in lengthy monologues about bullshit. Art, good shoes, cheap cigars, women, tattoos, authors dead long before they could even read, vomiting up verses they've been fed for the past 7 years, thinking shit they should at least know this if they're still students. Part-time ink slingers, barista babes, cocktail waitresses, bike snobs, barefoot barbecue backyard parties every summer, lazy Sundays and spiked sweet tea by the watering hole, cheap cigarettes floating in the green water, dead bumblebees, and someone's swimsuit top clogging the drain, someone's passing out in the shallow end of the pool, someone keeps whispering in my ear and telling me that I'm gonna fail. some collective understanding that nobody knows what to do anymore keeps us boozy, leaning against the windows, blowing smoke into one another's eyes, making promises that this will be the year. This year will blow the minds of every old white fuck still in power. This year will make all the difference and bleed red, white, blue, purple, green glitter. This year we pretend like we even know how to begin to accomplish something like that. This year we write stories about ice cream shops, new Walmarts, shoe stores in the strip mall, and big football games. This year we cling harder still to humor, to happy hour specials, to dance parties, to constant social climbing. This year we realized we were wrong. That what we thought was working wasn't working at all. That keeping your enemies close isn't good advice. That your friends see you at your worst and help you off your knees when you know you don't deserve it. That second chances are a godsend. That there is certainly a God, and he's probably a woman. That your mother was right all along and that your father can still love you from the grave. This year, we all hold our breath, waiting for the heat to break, for the first chill of winter to cool our skin, fresh mint on our lips and noses and ears, the calm before the storm, rotten tomatoes in hand, ready to throw at our aggressors, to tell them that they're wrong about us, that we're ready to fail, that we see what has come before and have found it lacking, that it's finally time for color, for noise, for dancing.